Okay, finally this is loaded. We are now recording. All right, this is. All right, finally, maybe. 20 seconds in, it still hasn't opened yet. This is really taking forever. Okay, here we go, finally. All right, are there some questions? Are there any questions? I'm sorry? Okay. On 6.4, we are on page 317, example 3, bottom of the page. Okay. 302. Okay, hold on. 302. 302. No, not responsible for anything in section 6.1. Yeah. I'm sorry? Okay, pick one. Number 1. Okay, this is page. Okay. Whoa. My pen's not working. Let me see if I can get it to work. Here it goes. Huh. Okay. Now. All right. Let's see. It's really, really slow today. This is page 309. I don't know why the pen's not working. There we go. This is problem set. 6.2. And this is example 1. Okay? It was x squared minus 9x is equal to 0. And by the way, this is almost identical to the stuff we did in chapter 3, the last section in chapter 3. Okay? It says solve the equations. Solve each of the quadratic equations. It even tells you by factoring and applying the property AB is equal to 0 if and only if Nick shows up. Okay, no, that's not what it says. Okay. Nathan shows up, sorry. But I can't find you anyway. There it is. Oh, I had already marked you here, so I was psychic. Okay. So, anyone else come in since I called on? Okay. So it tells you what to do. It says by factoring and applying the zero product principle if A, B is equal to 0, if and only if A is equal to 0 or B is equal to 0. If necessary, return to chapter 3 and review the factoring techniques presented there, okay? So, how would you proceed? What would be your first step to solve that problem? Say again? Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's, okay, I understand what you're saying. That would be if it was a trinomial. Then you put the 2 binomials. This one, what's the first thing to look for when you factor? That's what it says to do, by factoring. Yeah. And what you got? Factor out an x. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. And what do you have left? The pen is so slow, huh? Wait a minute. The thing is going crazy. What's left? X minus 9. And that product is equal to 0. What does that tell you? Say again? Either x equals 0 or x minus 9 is equal to 0. There's a solution right there. What's the second one? Add 9 to both sides. And you got x equal 9. I can think of at least 2 of the problems that were on the quiz that were just like this. Okay? So this is basically chapter 3 material. And you did it, and I think most of you did it well. There are your 2 solutions. Okay, find one. Okay, you're not responsible for any radicals. Okay? Not responsible for any of those. Those are section. None of it's going to be on the test. This stuff, okay? Yeah, well, 6-2. Huh? Okay, but remember when I gave you the homework exercises, I picked out the ones that did not have radicals or i's. Those were the homework exercises I assigned. I didn't assign any homework exercises that had radicals or i's. Okay? Yes? On that page? 7. All right. Let me go to a clean page here. All right, to erase this one? Okay. The pen has now picked up speed. Number 7. Same page as before, same section, number 7. 5n squared minus 9n is equal to 0. How would you proceed on that one? Factor. And what do you factor? N. What does that leave you with? 5n minus 9. That's an n squared up there. And that's equal to 0. Now what? Either n equals 0, there's a solution, or 5n minus 9 equals 0. How do we proceed with that one? Add 9 to both sides. And that gives us 5n is equal to 9. Divide by 5. And that gives us n is equal to 9/5. Now, I'm not taking time today to go back and check these, but you can always do that. See if those answers are right. I think they will be. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. Any others? A little louder, I can't hear. 17 on the same page? Okay. All right. I knew y'all wanted one with the brackets. Okay. 17. Same page, same section. 25x squared minus 30x. Goodness, that's ugly. Okay. Plus 9 is equal to 0. All right. How would you proceed on this one? Second? Okay. You can't factor out the x because even though there's an x here and x there, there's no x there. So x is not a common factor. Let's see if there are any other common factors. What's the only factorization for 25? 5 times 5. This is 5 times 6, but this has got a 5 in it. So no, there's no common factors anywhere in that problem. What next? Second? Okay, you can do your parentheses. That's one way to go. And it usually works. And what would you put where? 5x and 5x. Good choice. Say again? Okay, the signs are both negative. Very good. Because the last sign is positive, the signs have to be the same. Middle sign's negative, they've got to be negative. What next? Say again? I can't hear. I hear mumbling, but I can't make it out. Nothing else. 3 and 3. That sounds like a good choice to me. Okay? Let's see if that works. This you need to check because you don't proceed unless it works. 5x times 5x is 25x squared. 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. Negative 15x, that adds to negative 30x plus 9. Got it. So what's your solution? Either 5x minus 3 is equal to 0, or 5x minus 3 is equal to 0. Guess what? They're going to be the same, right? They're identical. So let's just solve one of them. How would you do that? Add 3 to both sides. Say again. Okay. 5x equal 3. Divide by 5, and you get x equal 3/5. Now that's what we call a double root. Okay? The reason it's a double root is this is I thought maybe someone would notice it, that's a perfect square trinomial. What are the clues? Okay, this is a perfect square, that's a perfect square. What's the square root? 5x and minus 3. This is twice the product of those. 5x times minus 3 is minus 15x. It's twice the product. So yeah, that's going to be a double root. Perfect square trinomial, it winds up being the square of a binomial. So it's only going to have one solution. Now remember, most quadratic equations, most are going to have two solutions. Maximum x1 of 2. But they don't have to. This one only has one solution. Happens to be a double root. Okay? But you will have a few that may be no solution. Or at least no real solution. Or possibly no rational solution. Okay? So, does that answer your questions there? Any others? 314. Okay? There. Okay. Okay. Pick one. 41? Okay. No, let me first see if I assigned 41. No, I didn't. Because that's going to involve a radical. I can do it, but you're not going to be responsible for that one on the test. Okay? Okay? Well, it's one that I assigned, and here are the ones I assigned from this section. Any of, say again? 70. I'm sorry? Okay, 39 I assigned. Okay? You want to do that one? Okay, 39. So this is page 314. And this is problem set 6.3. Okay, the pen is really scratchy today, and it's number 39. Okay, x squared plus 8x minus 48 is equal to 0. And you said you wanted to see it done completing the squares. Okay? What's your first step? Anyone remember the procedure for completing the square? I showed you two different ways. I'll do it the way the book did. It might be a little easier to see. First step, isolate the terms with the x's in them, or the variable in them, and then on the other side, all the ones without the variables in them. So what's that going to be? How would you do that? Add 48 to both sides of the equation. Okay, this is completing the square. This isn't how we normally do it, but this is completing the square. What does that give you? X squared plus 8x blank, do that on completing the square, is equal to 48. Okay. Now you're wanting to complete the square, so where do you go next? Where do you look next? Okay. Yeah, you can do the parentheses underneath if you want to, because we will be needing it there. But where do we go to determine what goes in there? 8. What do you do with the 8? Take half of it. That gives you 4. And then what do you do with that 4? Square it. So 4 squared is 16. So we're going to add 16 here. Okay? Now, if you add 16 there, you've got to add 16 here as well. Okay? Now, here's a little timeout here. We proceeded like this because we had a coefficient of 1 here. If we hadn't had a coefficient of 1 for the squared term, we divide by that coefficient. We didn't need to, it's already there. So this is going to be, your next line was x, whatever sign is here on that middle term, plus, and when you took half of the 8, that gave you 4, that's going to be your perfect square. This is your perfect square trinomial. There's the square of the binomial. Okay? Just like similar to the problem we just before. Now, what does these add to? 48 and 16. 64. Okay, now what do we do? Say again? Square root of both sides of the equation. That's why we wanted a perfect square there so we could take the square root. What do you left with on the left-hand side? X plus 4. And on the right-hand side? Not quite. Every time you take the square root of a number, you have plus or minus 8. Okay, plus or minus 8. Now, there's sometimes in physical problems you'll throw away the minus sign because you can't have a radius that's minus 8 or something like that. But in a regular math problem, you have to include the plus or minus anytime you take the square root of a number, plus or minus. Now, this actually, it may not look like it, gives you two solutions. Let's write down what it's saying. Either x plus 4 is equal to plus 8, or x plus 4 is equal to minus 8. Solve the first one. Subtract, 4 from both sides, and that gives you x equal 4. And on this side, subtract 4 from both sides, and that gives you x equal negative 12. Those are your two solutions. Okay? And you can go back and plug into the original problem, which was this one here without the, where was it? There it is. How did it do that? This is so aggravating. Okay. Here was your original problem. You can plug those in, and I think you'll see they both work. They get to be some pretty big numbers, but they should both work. Okay? Does that answer your question? Say again? Okay, pick one. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? 43. Let's see. Yeah, 43 was one that I did assign. So we'll do that one. If I can get the thing to erase, there it goes. All right. 43. All right. Now this is on page 315, but it's just the next page. 3x minus 1 times 2x plus 9 is equal to 0. Now, a little bit of a timeout here, okay? If you want to do it completing the square, I certainly will do it. But what is that set up perfectly to do? Solve it right there. It's already factored for you, equals 0. Why mess with it? Now, if that factoring was here, but it was equal to 17 or minus 3 or anything else, then you have to multiply through and then move it, get it back to the 0, and then do it. But this one is perfectly set up to factor. It's already factored. Just solve it. But if you want to see how to do it completing the square, we can do that. You want to? If that's equal to 0, exactly. What's that? 45. Okay, 45 will work, right? Okay. It looks almost the same, but not quite. Okay. 45. Again, this is on page 315. X plus 2 times x minus 7 is equal to 10, not 0. Okay? This one, just because it's factored, doesn't help you a bit. Okay? Because what do you need to do first? You ultimately will. Okay, but let's do. How will you do that? For it, exactly. And what does that give you? X squared. What's that again? Minus 7x plus 2x minus 14 is equal to 10. Okay? What would you do next? Combine like terms. That gives you x squared minus 5x minus 14 is equal to 10. Okay? Now, y'all wanted to do it completing the square, right? That's what you said, right? Okay, wait. All right. I know the easiest way, but I thought the question was, let's do it completing the square.
You don't know how to do it. I just want to know how to do the proper completing the square, but if you feel like you can do another way,
okay.
As long as it's easy.
Huh?
As long as it's easy.
They're all easy. You know that.
The directions say pick the one that's most appropriate.
Most appropriate. So you tell me what you think is most appropriate.
I guess the factor.
You want to factor it? Okay, to factor it, what do we need to do? Move the 10 over. If we were completing the square, what would we do? Move the 14 over. Exactly. That's why you need to decide which way you're going to try to do. So you want to try factoring? Okay, so let's subtract 10 from both sides. Do you see the difference? If you're factoring, you have to have it equal 0. Otherwise, it doesn't do you any good. If you're completing the square, you want the x's on one side and the numbers on the other. So this gives you what? X squared minus 5x minus 24 equals 0. That's exactly the standard form that we want. Okay? What next? I'm sorry? Two parentheses. I like it. I couldn't hear what everybody said, so speak up. Okay? Yuck. This thing is aggravating. What do you do next? It's got to be x times x. And that's different. So put 1 as plus and 1 as minus. It doesn't matter which goes where. And then what are we looking for? Okay, two numbers that multiply to be 24, but their difference is 5. Okay? 8 and 3. Okay, which number goes where? Yes, 8 goes with the minus sign and 3 with the positive sign. Okay? Now what? Second? Yes, okay. X plus 3 equals 0, or x minus 8 equals 0. The first one does what? Subtract 3 from both sides. That gives you x equal negative 3. I'm running out of room down there. So that's the solution. The other one is add 8 to both sides, and that gives you x equal 8. All right. This one would be pretty easy, I think, to check. Let's do it. Minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1 times 8. Minus 3 minus 7. negative 10. So minus 1 times minus 10 is positive 10. That works. How about this one? 10 times 1 is 10. Both of them work. Very good. And decide now, folks, if you go back and check, we did these in chapter 3. One's very similar to this. Not the same problem, but very, very similar. And I don't know if you had one quite like it on the quiz, but probably so pretty close. Okay? Any others?
I know this one is sad, but it's the only one I see like it though. So he using 46.
46.
Yeah, but could you do the continuous square thing?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay? 46. All right. Yeah, it wasn't assigned, but I'll be glad to do any of them in the book as long as they fit the criteria, and this does. X minus 3 times x plus 5, and that's equal to negative 7. Okay? What would you do first? Fold it! Good deal. What does that give you? X squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 15 equal negative 7. Next, combine like terms. That gives you x squared plus 2x. My pen's quit writing. I don't know why. There it goes. Goodness sakes, this is so aggravating. All right. Next, minus 15 is equal to negative 7. I don't know why the thing's doing this crazy stuff this morning. Okay? Now, you wanted to complete the square. So what's our next step? Add 15. On completing the square, you want the x's on one side, the numbers on the other. So add 15 to both sides. I can't. This is crazy. Okay. What does that give you? X squared plus 2x blank is, okay, I'm just kidding. Okay, is equal to 8. Okay. Nice to have the blank there, though. Why? What's the next step? Half of 2 is? And? Square it, and you get 1. So you add 1 to both sides, right? Now, what does that give you down here? X plus 1 squared is equal to 9. Now what? Say again? It's already squared, square root. And what does that give you? X plus 1 is equal to? Ah, very good. Plus or minus 3. Now, what does that mean to you? Either, okay, x plus 1 is equal to plus 3, or x plus 1 is equal to negative 3. Let's solve the first one. Subtract 1 from both sides, and that gives you x equals what? 2. Got it. And the other one? No, subtract still. And this is x equal negative 4. And sure enough, that's the answers they give. 2 solutions, x equal 2, x equal negative 4. And it's not hard to check that one either. Let's just do it quickly. 2 minus 3 is negative 1 times 2 plus 7. 5 is 7. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. And over here we got negative 4 minus 3 is negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. And this gives you plus 1. Negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. I mean, yeah. Exactly. So yeah, not hard to check. See? All right. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. Okay, number 29. Let me just make sure I assigned it correctly. Yeah. Okay, so you want to do 29? Is that what I heard? Okay. So, let me see. I've got to try to hold my place. Oh, here's my place. I was holding it. Okay. And okay. So this is page 322. This is problem set 6-4. And number 20, no, what did you say? 29? Is that right? 29. I have a good memory. It's just short. Okay. All right. Negative 2n squared plus 3n plus 5 is equal to 0. Okay. Question or just stretching? Okay. All right. Now it says here, use the quadratic formula to solve each of the following quadratic equations. Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want? Okay. All right. Now, how do we proceed with the quadratic formula? Say again? The quadratic formula is what? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, that's what we were doing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't hear well. So I thought you were saying, what is the quadratic formula? I was going to say, good question, because that's the first thing you should write down. What is the quadratic formula? Okay, only here it's n, it's the variable. N is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of, second, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? Now, for those who may not have been here Monday or someday earlier when I said it, I'll try to say it. Remember, you can bring with you on any test, except the final exam, a formula and equation sheet. Every test you can bring a formula and equation sheet. Anything you want to write on a piece of paper, you can bring with you for the test and use during the test. For the final exam, you can still do a formula and equation sheet, you just can't use it during the test, because that's a departmental final. I don't govern that, but I do govern these. So, I think that'd be a great thing to write down on a piece of paper if you already know it. So you don't have to memorize, write it down. There's plenty of other things you might want to put there too, but that's one. All right, now before we can use that, what do we have to do? Okay, what numbers? All right, yeah, we identify what A, B, and C is. And A is, you said negative 2, B is 3, and C is 5. Very good. Okay, so now we plug them in. So that would be negative, say again, 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times, say again, negative 2 times 5. All divided by 2 times negative 2. Very good. Okay, I wish I had written this a little higher up. Okay, so let's start doing that math. That's a minus 3 plus or minus the square root of, what's 3 squared? 9. Now time out just a moment here. Here's what I do next. Notice it's always a minus 4. And then what I do is count my minus signs. How many do I have? 2. What does that mean this side's going to be? Plus. If it's an odd number of minus signs, it's a minus. Even number, it's a plus. Okay? So that'll be a plus. And then I multiply those 3 numbers together. And what does that give you? 40. Very good. Divided by negative 4. Okay? I'm going to come back this way and do this. Minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 40? 49 divided by negative 4. Okay? That's negative 3 plus or minus what square root of 49? 7 divided by negative 4. Now we get our two solutions. N is equal to minus 3, right, plus, no, 7. Okay, it is 4. I understand what you're saying. Divided by negative 4. And what does that give you? Say again? Yeah, 4 over negative 4, which is negative 1. There's a solution. And the other one is, n is equal, I don't have any room, I'll write it down here. N is equal to negative 3 minus 7 over negative 4. And what does that give you? Wait a minute. Okay. Negative 10 over negative 4, which gives you 5 over 2. 5 halves. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. That was 29. Yep, negative 1 and 5 halves. Fantastic. Okay, sorry, I'm sort of all over the board. I don't have a lot of room to write here. And these things keep popping up in the background. Okay.
So right there in the middle where it says negative 3 plus or minus 7.
This one?
No, right in the middle of the screen. Right there.
Huh?
Yeah, right there.
This one, right?
On the top part of that part where it says negative and positive 7.
Right.
The next step you just did it with a positive and then
Yeah.
one with a negative.
You get, this means there's two answers. One with the plus and one with the minus. The one with the plus is negative 3 plus 7 over negative 4. The one with the minus is minus 3 minus 7 over negative 4. Those are your two solutions. Okay? Good deal. Good question. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Which one?
Let me mention that.
Wait. Okay. Oh, leave it there. Okay. You can go and tell me. What's that? I'm sorry? Insofar as in the chapter 3, we factored the sum and difference of two perfect cubes. In that sense, you have to do a cube roots there. Recognize them anyway. But you know, I said do that little table. You can bring that with you on the piece of paper if you want to. Okay? Be an excellent thing, I think, to do if you don't remember those.
I'm not.
You got it? Okay. Did you come up with one?
Yeah.
Second? I can't. 33? Is that what you said? I can't hear. Okay. 33. 33. Yes. Okay. All right. 33. 6n squared. No, 36n squared. I can't read. They like n's on these, don't they? Minus 60n, or maybe y'all like the n's. Minus 60n plus 25 is equal to 0. Now, before I would begin at all, always look for what? Common factors. Are there any here? This is a 2 times 18, which is 2 times 9, which is 3 times 3, so 2, 2, 3, and 3. That gives you 36, right? This is 2 times 30 times 2 times 15 times 3 times 5. You got 2 2s and 5 that are all in common, wasn't it? Or 3 3s that are all in common. So here we have only 5 and 5. So there aren't any common factors. Man, with those big numbers, I love to see common factors, but you don't. So what do we do now? Second? A, B, and C. Excellent. Okay. What is your A? 36. What is your B? Negative 60. And what's your C? 25. And what do we do with them? Plug them in, plug them in. What do we plug them into? Quadratic formula. How does that go? Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. Plug them in, plug them in. What do you get? Negative a negative 60, which is 60. Positive 60. Very good. Plus or minus the square root of 60 squared. I like these small numbers, don't you? Minus 4 times 36 times 25 over 2 times 36. All right. So that'll be a 60 plus or minus the square root of, does anyone know what 60 squared is? 3,600. If you got calculators, you can use them. By the way, folks, you can use calculators on the test. You're encouraged to bring your calculator. Because guess what? Most of mine have either died or walked away. I don't have any calculators in this room anymore, though I can bring up a few from my office, but I only have like 3 or 4 down there. So please bring your calculators, okay? And you don't need fancy ones, just little cheapies will do, okay? Now what do I do next? Count your minus signs, and you only have one, so that's going to be a minus. And then what do we have here? Is what? Okay. Let me show you what I think is the easy way to do this. Remember multiplication is commutative? What's 4 times 25? 100 times 36 is? 3,600. So guess what? That's 3,600. All right. And, whoa. All right. I cheated. Okay. You can multiply these in any order you want to because multiplication is commutative, right? You got the minus sign where you needed it, right? So I did these two first. 4 times 25 is 100 times 36 is 3,600. See how much easier that is? Okay. What does that do? Over. Second. 72, right? All right. And what does that give you? 60 over 72. He throws his books at me, okay? And what does that give us? Say again? Can we? Is that your final answer? Say again? 5. I agree with the 5 part. Oh, divide by 5. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, wait, let me, I'm slow. Okay. Okay, wait a minute. You got 10 over what? 10 over 12, which is 5, 6. I think you got it. Okay. Let me see if I can find. Yep, 5, 6. That's it. There we go. Now that brings up another thing. Always simplify fractions. Now, if that came up 6/5, that's fine. You don't have to write it as 1 1/5. But 10 twelfths or 60 72nds, since they can be simplified, simplify. Okay? But you don't have to always reduce them, but you don't have to write them in mixed numbers if you don't want to. Okay? Now, what does that tell you? You only get one solution? That meant this was a perfect square trinomial. And sure enough, that's a perfect square. That's a perfect square. Square root of this is 6n. Square root of that is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Double that, and you get 60. So that was a perfect square trinomial. Just like the one we had before, that's when you get one solution. And only one solution. Okay? Any others? Okay. I think we've done most of the homework problems. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. But is this one helpful? Okay, fantastic. All right, I don't know how we're doing on time. How are we doing on time? Huh? 10 minutes. Oh, that's plenty of time. All right, let's go to example. Are there any other questions before I go? Okay. Well, I can't get this to respond. This is such a pain in the neck. There we go. All right. Now, example 3 here. Because we're sort of short on time, is going to wind up with a radical in it. So unless you just want to see this for future reference, we can skip it. Okay? Skip it. Okay? Example 4 is going to have an imaginary number and a radical in it. So you're not going to be responsible for these on the test. If you want to see how it goes, I'll be glad to do it for you. Okay. Huh? Skip. Okay. So let's look at example 5. I think example 5 is one that would be like is on the test. Solve this. And it's a lot like ones we've been doing. N times 3n minus 10 is equal to 25. Say again? I can't hear. Oh, it's on page 318, bottom of the page. Example 5. Okay? Now, it says to solve it, and frankly, I don't care how you solve it. Do you want to use, what do you want to use? We got 3 tools. We can multiply through and set it up so we can factor it, or we can multiply through and set it up to use the completing the square, or we can multiply through and use quadratic formula. I don't care. You choose. Say again? What you want to do? Your choice. You paid your money, you take your choice. Factoring. Okay, how would you set this up to factor? Say again? I can't hear. Distribute. Okay, right. I'm sorry, I can't hear. That's what? 3n squared minus 10n equal 25. Okay, and you chose to factor, so what are we going to do next? Subtract 25 from both sides, because before you factor, you always get the 0 on the other side. And guess what, team? Before you do quadratic formula, you have to have the 0 on the other side. You have to have that same form. Okay? So subtract 25 from both sides, and that gives you 3n squared minus 10n minus 25 equal 0. So at this point, you can still say, I can either factor or use quadratic formula. Which way you want to go? It's up to you. You still want to factor? Huh? Oh, you want to do quadratic formula? Let's do it. Y'all love these ends, don't you? Okay. How does quadratic formula look? N is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Got it. After a while, you don't need to write it down, but still, I like to do that anyway. Okay. What else you got to do? What is your a, b, and c? What is your a? 3. What's your b? Negative 10. Keep the sign with it. And c is negative 25. Keep the sign with it. Okay. So now we plug away. What will that be? A positive 10 plus or minus the square root of 100. He already did it, okay? Minus 4 times 3 times negative 25. All right, he's already figuring it out. And what goes on the bottom? 2 times 3. Okay. So your n is equal to 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 plus 300. Y'all did that quickly. over, what'd you say? 6, okay? So this is equal to 10 plus or minus the square root of 400 over 6, which is 10 plus or minus, anyone know the square root of 400? 20, very good, over 6, okay? I'm going to come over here to the side because I'm running out of room there. N is equal to, give me the first one, 10 plus 20 over 6, which is 30 over 6, which is 5. Excellent. Or N is equal to 10 minus 20 over 6, which is negative 10, 6, which is negative 5/3. Watch those signs, folks. They'll sneak out and bite you in an unwanted place. Okay. So negative 5/3 or 5. Perfect. And that would be relatively easy to check. Those fractions are a little messy, but they could still do it. Okay? I'm sorry?
I was just looking where you went left.
Okay. I went to the bottom on the right, then had to come back to the left. Okay? Got it? And we could have done that by factoring. Can anyone look at the answers and tell me what the factors would have been? You should. If n is equal to 5, what's one of the factors? 5. N minus 5. Remember? Set it equal to 0 and you get n equal 5. And this one would have been, okay, 3n plus 5. Because you have to multiply by 3. 3n is equal to minus 5. Add 5 to both sides. You got 3n plus 5 is equal to 0. That would have been your other factor. So once you have the answers, you can figure out what the factors would have been, but you don't need to do it. Okay. Now, I take it by the motion that we must be about out of time. Okay. Now, there's still one little topic here we didn't get to, and that's determining the nature of roots of quadratic equations. I can't remember for sure. I think there may be one of these on the test. I can't say for sure. And because there may be, that moves the test to next Wednesday. So we'll need to finish this on Monday. We'll go on and get started in go back to chapter 4, but yes. Okay. Okay, say again? Yeah. Okay. And by the way, if I haven't said this before, at the end of every chapter, they give a bunch of formulas in a summary, so that's a good place to go to. But to answer your question, I believe it started with 3-4, didn't it? Yeah, 3-4, 3-5, and 3-6. You might see a few like 3-7, but they're just like 3-6 basically. But we did do 3-7. Then we skipped over to 6 and did 6-2, 6-3, and 6-4. We haven't quite finished 6-4, but we will. But remember on those, no radicals, no imaginary numbers. We talked about them just so if you ever run into them, you'll know what they are, but you're not responsible on the test for them. Doesn't mean that it hurts you to know them. No, it doesn't hurt you, but you won't need it on the test. Okay? So we will finish section 6.4 on Monday, and then we'll do, let's give you some homework exercises. I knew y'all were sitting here waiting for something. I've assigned most of these before, and we've done a lot of them in class. Y'all remember the first ones, right? Starting with 19, was it? Yeah. 19. 29, 31, 33, we've done a lot of these, 37, 45, 53, wait a minute, no, I'm sorry, stop at 47, because the rest of them require what we're going to cover next Monday, so stop it. That was page 322. All right, good deal. All right, we'll see you Monday. Have a good weekend working on math, right? And by the way, anyone who hasn't turned in the quiz, please get me the quiz in, because I can't return those to others, right? And you can't take the test until you've turned in the quiz or ask me to give you a 0 on the quiz.
Can you like summarize the types of questions that are going to be like on the test?
Okay, the type on the first part is going to be like the ones on the quiz.
I mean, like, you like just like names for like the times that be on there, just like a generalization of all of them.
Okay, like completing the square and
Yeah. That's like
well, completing the square, factoring, and
all that stuff is.
yeah, all this
in the
stuff.
book too,
Yeah,
right?
right, exactly. Yeah,
So I can skip
just
that.
like the homework exercise. Second, yeah.
I just do most of my study.
Okay. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Takes me a while. I may be old, but I'm slow. Okay. Is that what you want to see? And if you will punch that. Well, yeah, the bottom button. No. The very bottom button. Yeah, punch it twice. 1, 2. Okay. One more. Okay, good. Yeah.
So next week, if everyone hasn't turned their quiz in by Monday, I want to take a picture of these. Because I want to study it. I won't show
Okay,
nobody. I just want to,
absolutely.
but I wait till
Oh,
Monday
you're waiting for Monday.
to
Okay.
see if
All right.
they're.
What shit we worked on last time? B squared minus 4AC, plugged them into the ABC.
Yeah.
Into the,
Same thing we did
I
today, right?
understood it last night, whenever I did it last night.
Uh-huh.
I got it.
Fantastic. Way to go. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not really sure what I'm asking, to be honest with you.
Okay. So I won't be sure what I'm answering either. Okay.
I guess I want to know, how do you know when you do this versus when you do it this way? I hope you can read that.
What is that?
I
Quadratic
guess what I
formula?
mean is, how do you know when you do the brackets versus when you don't? Because to me, they look the same.
Yeah.
I know they look the same to me.
Okay.
So why do we do the other one different?
Okay. This was factoring. Okay, that you do the brackets and go. Now, what was this one? This one you did completing the square.
So that's the difference.
Huh?
Can you do them both ways?
You can do them both ways.
Maybe that's what.
Now, well, here's the thing. Not all equations are factorable. All the ones you're going to have in the test are either going to have no solution or factorable. Okay? But not all are factorable. All of them you can do using completing the square or quadratic formula. You just may have radicals or i's or other things. But for factoring, you'll always have the rational answers, either whole numbers or ratios, fractions. So, so basically, every one I give you on the test probably can be factored. I can't say for sure, but but you won't need. But sometimes the quadratic formula is easier than factoring. This one was pretty easy to do quadratic formula, whereas factoring would have taken several trials and errors.
This looks like a lot.
It looks like, yeah, right.
Well, I appreciate it.
Uh-huh. All right. Let's see, where did we end? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
All right, glad to.